What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the garage. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Vevor CUT-50P. I want to start out by saying that Vevor did send this to me at no charge for the purpose of doing a few videos. As always, all the thoughts and opinions in this video are my own and unbiased. So first things first, this is a 50 amp plasma cutter. It is also a no-touch high-frequency start version, so there is no contact needed with the metal in order to make your cut. This is 110 or 220. In the box, you're going to get your cutting torch, of course. Very solid unit. This is an AG60, so consumables for this are readily available in a lot of places, so no concerns there. You're going to get a ground clamp, and then you, of course, get your air regulator that's on the back here. They give you some fittings for that. Those are just barbed fittings, and then you do get some tubing. I always put the same fittings that I use on all my air tools for the air compressor because that makes life very, very easy when you're using one of these. So definitely put what you think will work best for you on it. Don't feel like you're stuck to what comes in the box. Something to keep in mind with this machine, and it's kind of silly, but the regulator they give you is metric. Suggestions on the front of the machine that are actually like printed on this label on the front are in PSI. So there's a little disconnect there. Not a big deal. You'll just have to find yourself a conversion chart from the metric measurements to PSI and get it set. And honestly, it's not something you're going to be changing that often. I typically kind of set this to its max and kind of leave it unless there's a need to change it for some specific purpose. Additionally, you are going to get some more extra consumables and a little standoff guide. You do not get another insulator, but like I said, readily available, easy to find, and cheap. So not a big deal there. As far as using this machine, there is not a lot to it. All these CUT-50s are pretty similar. The layout may be a little different, like some of them have a gauge up front, but internally in the way they function, they're all very, very similar. So this machine, you've got a little digital readout up here. It's going to give you your amperage and the knob to change that amperage, and that's about it. That's all you need to control on this other than your air pressure on the regulator, and you're good to cut. Now, it is going to take a little bit of getting used to figure out kind of where your amperage needs to be and how fast you can move while you're cutting. So keep that in mind. Get some practice steel out and practice some cuts before you move on to something you want to really be, you know, a finished product, and you should be good to go just like with anything else. This machine's rated for 1/2 inch clean cut capacity on 220 at 50 amps. I don't currently have a piece of 1/2 inch I'm willing to cut for this video. I have some, but it's reserved for a future project that I'm currently working on. So I'm not going to cut that up for this video. I have this plate here, which is 1/4 inch 5/16, and this is just a scrap welding plate that I've been using to test welders and settings and things on. So no problem cutting this one up. Just keep in mind, when you get into 3/8 and 1/2 inch cuts with a machine like this, the machine will do it. My other machine does it, but it really comes down to your technique and how proficient you are cutting at those thicknesses. So definitely practice on some scrap before you try to do something for a project at those thicknesses, because things can start to get really messy really fast. If you are going too quickly or you don't have high enough air pressure, you can start blowing molten metal all over the place. I also highly advise, if you're going to get a cutter like this, either use it outdoors or get a table that will catch your sparks and slags, or at least some kind of cutting surface that has some sort of catchment underneath it, just so you're not blowing sparks and slag all over the place. I have one I built. I'll put a link to that up in the corner of the video, and it works great. It's just right now it is buried behind some other things because I'm trying to rework this garage a little bit and make it a little more efficient and easier to work in. So I didn't want to dig it out for this because that'd undo a lot of what I've started already. So we're going to just cut it right here and do a couple test cuts, and we'll be back. So as you guys saw, this thing cuts. I mean, it cut through this. The cuts themselves are actually pretty clean as far as the edges go. They're a little bumpy and not straight because I didn't use a guide and was cutting over these welds and stuff. So you can definitely get very nice, straight, clean cuts if you use a straight edge or some kind of template. And that is one of the benefits to these no-touch cutters with these guides, is you can make yourself templates and run that along them in order to do repeatable cuts or straight cuts or whatever you need to do, curves. You can do all that sort of stuff with these guides. So there's a lot of benefits to the no-touch cutters. There's also some benefits to the contact cutters. The biggest benefit to these no-touch cutters is you don't have to clean your material before you're going to make your cut. So there's no grinding, there's no flap disc, wire wheels. You can cut through paint and rust. You just need a good place to ground. So you can clean off a little spot to get a good ground and start cutting and not have to worry about cleaning up the whole piece in order to make your cuts. One issue with these high frequency start plasma cutters, and this is every high frequency start plasma cutter, not just this one in particular, is if you plan on using it in a CNC table, you need to take precautions and make sure that your table is set up for that, because that can create a lot of interference with the electronics in the table. So a lot of tables say they're not compatible with them. People have done some things like grounding straps and like shields and things to keep that interference out of the electronics, and it has worked to an extent. So just do your research there. If you think you're going to get a CNC table, maybe look at a blowback style machine. But for just hand use cutting, highly recommend the no-touch cutters over a contact tip for most applications. If you're interested in one of these and you do any sort of welding or metalworking, I highly suggest just going ahead and getting one for around $225, give or take. This is going to save you a lot of time cutting and give you a lot more options. Also great for breaking down scrap metal into smaller pieces. Like I said, you don't have to clean up anything to use this. So you can bring some scrap metal home, cut it down into pieces to put away or use, and don't have to do a bunch of prep work in order to do that. And you don't have the noise and mess of an angle grinder and a cutoff wheel. Do keep in mind you will need a reasonable air compressor, because this uses air the entire time you're using it. So make sure you have that covered. You don't need anything too huge, because you can really, especially on 110, you're going to be using lower PSI with lower amperage. However, your compressor may be running quite a bit if it is small. There will be some affiliate links in the description below for this machine, as well as a few other things I've used in this video, both for Amazon and Vevor themselves. Vevor does have pretty quick shipping within the United States. A lot of things come out of a California warehouse, so they're not coming from overseas. So definitely give those a look if you're interested in this machine. I think it's a great machine, especially for the price and a home workshop garage situation. Definitely a lot of things you can use it for, and a lot of value you get for your money.